40 years ago, in the wake of Watergate, the United States Senate created a special committee to look into the activities of U.S. intelligence services.
Imagine walking into a bar in 1950s San Francisco, enjoying a drink, perhaps meeting a charming woman, and heading to a nearby apartment. But what if I told you that what happens next isn't just a wild night out, but the beginning of a secret government experiment? Welcome to Operation Midnight Climax, one of the darkest chapters in CIA history.
This is the story of a 30-year search by U.S. intelligence agencies to perfect mind control. Some of those engaged in that search have agreed to talk about it for the first time. One said, "I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line."
The 1950s and 60s were times of great tension and rapid scientific progress. The Cold War had the United States and the Soviet Union locked in a fierce battle for global dominance, a battle that extended beyond nuclear arms to the very minds of men. Amidst this backdrop, the CIA launched MK Ultra, a top-secret program aimed at mastering mind control. But among the many disturbing sub-projects of MK Ultra, one stands out for its sheer audacity: Operation Midnight Climax.
The committee met for 16 months. It reviewed more than 10,000 documents. It called 800 witnesses before the committee and its staff.
A whistleblower, a former Army counterintelligence captain, provided details in 1970 in a published account that was published by the Washington Monthly of a nationwide Army domestic intelligence program.
MK Ultra was born out of fear. Fear that the Soviets were making advances in psychological warfare that could give them a strategic edge. The CIA's response? To experiment with mind-altering drugs like LSD. But they needed a place where they could conduct these experiments covertly. San Francisco, with its vibrant nightlife and countercultural scene, provided the perfect cover. In 1953, under the direction of Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, MK Ultra officially began. As part of this program, George Hunter White, a seasoned narcotics officer with a flair for undercover work, was brought in to run Operation Midnight Climax. White's job? To establish a safe house where unsuspecting men would be lured, drugged, and observed, all without their consent.
Members of Congress didn't know anything about it. It had been secret running for about a decade, and the whole purpose was to monitor political dissent in the United States, those who voiced opposition to the U.S. domestic and foreign policies.
White was no ordinary CIA operative. Born in 1906, White had a career that read like a pulp novel. He started as a journalist, moved into law enforcement, and served as an agent in the Office of Strategic Services during World War II. Known for his aggressive and unorthodox methods, White was the perfect choice for an operation as morally ambiguous as Midnight Climax. White's experience in the Federal Bureau of Narcotics made him an expert in undercover operations. He knew the criminal underworld, he knew how to manipulate people, and most importantly, he wasn't afraid to bend the rules. When the CIA came calling, White was ready to take on a new challenge, one that would push the boundaries of ethics and legality.
George White was not a man of understatement or subtleties. His boss at OSS, Stanley Lovell, referred to him as deadly and dedicated. In this note from White's diaries, it says, "Call Lovell regarding TD." TD was a rather transparent cover for Truth Drug.
Operation Midnight Climax began with the establishment of a fake brothel in a discreet San Francisco apartment. White, with the help of the CIA, set up the safe house with two-way mirrors and hidden recording devices. The idea was simple: lure men into the brothel, dose them with LSD, and observe their behavior. All of this was done, of course, without the subject's knowledge. To make this work, White recruited local prostitutes, paying them to bring men back to the apartment. These women were aware that something was going on, but they likely had no idea the full scope of the operation. Once inside, the men were secretly given LSD, and the experiment began.
And you have another revelation, the third one now, to say that there are some intelligence abuses out there, and Congress doesn't seem to know much about them.
The experiments conducted during Operation Midnight Climax were as unethical as they were secretive. The men who entered the brothel thought they were just having a wild night out, but they were actually part of a government experiment. The LSD was slipped into their drinks, and as the drug took effect, White and his team watched from behind the mirror.
As this 1952 CIA memo says, the aim is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation.
White's notes from these sessions provide a chilling look at the CIA's willingness to cross ethical boundaries. He observed how the men reacted to the drugs, how their behavior changed, and how they interacted with the prostitutes. Every detail was meticulously recorded with the hope that this data could be used to develop new mind control techniques. But it wasn't just about the drugs. The prostitutes were instructed to engage the men in conversation, to manipulate them, and to see how easily their behavior could be influenced. The goal was to understand how LSD could be used to extract information or even control an individual's actions. What the CIA learned from these experiments would later be applied in other equally disturbing projects.
And then finally, in December of 1974, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh published a front page above the fold article in the New York Times, alleging that the CIA had developed a domestic surveillance program.
And what of George White, the man who helped the agency in so many of its programs? He would retire here to Stinson Beach, California. And shortly before his death, he wrote to his boss at the CIA, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, and summed up his career by saying, "It was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, and cheat, steal, deceive, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?"
The ethical concerns surrounding Operation Midnight Climax are staggering. The men who were drugged had no idea they were part of an experiment which violates the most basic principles of informed consent. This lack of consent wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. But it wasn't just the subjects who were exploited. The prostitutes used in the operation were also victims of the CIA's manipulations. They were complicit, yes, but they were also pawns in a much larger game, one they likely didn't fully understand. The legal implications of the operation are equally troubling. The use of illegal drugs, the violation of privacy, and the exploitation of vulnerable individuals all raise serious questions about the legality of the CIA's actions. These concerns would later come to the forefront as more information about MK Ultra was exposed.
We have been victimized by excessive secrecy, not only with respect to the failure of the Congress in the past to exercise proper surveillance over intelligence activities, but also excessive secrecy has created this kind of mischief within the executive branch.
The psychological impact of these experiments on the subject was profound. Many of the men experienced intense hallucinations, paranoia, and confusion. For some, these effects were temporary, but for others, the trauma of the experience may have left lasting scars.
Here is part of an interview with the subject just before LSD is to be administered.
My husband is an employee here at the VA, and he told me that they were looking for normal people, and I volunteered.
Because these men were never informed of the true nature of their experiences, it's impossible to know the full extent of the damage caused by Operation Midnight Climax. There were no follow-up studies, no psychological support offered, and no accountability from the CIA. The men were simply left to deal with the aftermath on their own. This lack of accountability is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the operation. The CIA conducted these experiments with no regard for the long-term consequences, both for the subjects and for society at large. It's a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the potential for abuse in covert operations.
Well,
tell me.
Well, I just couldn't. I couldn't possibly tell you. It's here. Can't you feel it? This whole room, this, everything is in color, and I can feel the air. I can see it. I can see all the molecules.
Operation Midnight Climax continued until 1966, when growing concerns about its legality and ethics led to its termination. By that time, the operation had already become controversial within the CIA, and the broader MK Ultra program was beginning to attract unwanted attention. The public exposure of MK Ultra in the 1970s, including Operation Midnight Climax, led to widespread outrage. Congressional hearings such as the Church Committee revealed the full extent of the CIA's unethical experiments, leading to significant changes in how the agency conducted its operations.
He injects the drug into monkeys to find out whether he can duplicate man's LSD experience in the animal closest to man. Dr. Jarvik says that the LSD effects can be seen in the rhesus monkey, yet LSD remains an enigma.
The backlash from these revelations forced the CIA to adopt new ethical guidelines and oversight mechanisms to prevent similar abuses in the future. But for those who were affected by Operation Midnight Climax, the damage had already been done.
You have to approach LSD with trembling and with fear and with love to use it for harmony and beauty. What's going on in the United States today is a revolution in consciousness facilitated by these psychedelic chemicals.
George Hunter White retired from the CIA in 1966, leaving behind a legacy that is as controversial as it is complex. On the one hand, he was a skilled operative who played a crucial role in one of the CIA's most infamous programs. On the other hand, his actions contributed to the ethical and legal controversies that ultimately led to the program's termination. White's involvement in Operation Midnight Climax serves as a stark reminder of the potential for abuse in covert operations. His willingness to cross ethical boundaries in the name of national security. Today, George Hunter White is remembered not just as a CIA operative, but as a symbol of the moral ambiguities that can arise when the pursuit of knowledge and control takes precedence over human rights and dignity. As we look back at this period, it's crucial to remember the importance of transparency, informed consent, and accountability in all areas of research and government operations. The legacy of Operation Midnight Climax isn't just a story from the past, it's a warning for the future.
Were the Soviets into LSD?
I'm going to have to say I'm sure they were.
Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications on future videos. Let us know your thoughts on Operation Midnight Climax in the comments below. And remember, Operation Climax was but only one of approximately 150 sub-projects of MK Ultra. Learn more about MK Ultra by clicking on this next video.